This week, one operator's trash is another one's treasure as we check out Grand Central's newest fleet edition. These ex-Avanti Voyager trains are one of Britain's most hated, but are a saving grace for Grand Central passengers who suffer their incredibly unreliable Class 180 trains. We'll be putting the Voyager to the test as we travel from Bradford in West Yorkshire down to the British capital London. Now join me as the journey continues. We'll be starting our journey today at Bradford Interchange, one of two main stations serving the city of Bradford, which I believe locals call the Interchange. Opened in 1973, I'm afraid to say it's looking in quite a sorry state at the moment. This is owing to a large chunk of concrete having fallen from the ceiling of the underground car park located directly underneath the bus station here, and has resulted in its closure back in January 2024 due to safety concerns. And whilst the railway station is still operational, the bus terminal as well as the shops and outlets located within it are completely inaccessible, and whilst there were initial fears it would be permanently closed, it's set for reopening in January 2025. With the main part of the interchange closed, there's not really much to be said about the platform concourse. You'll find ticket offices here as well as ticket machines for pre-purchase ticket collection as well as last minute purchases. On that note, our service today down to London King's Cross is the 10:23 Grand Central service departing from platform 2. Access to the platforms, as with most UK train stations, is provided using the automatic ticket gates here, and with my e-ticket I can gain access by scanning it like so. Northern is the main operator here for services across Yorkshire and even towards the northwest of England. Bradford Interchange is a dead end, and most services serving here are not terminating, meaning these through services instead have to reverse here as part of their journey. An example can be seen now with this Northern Class 195 arriving from Leeds and departing for Manchester Victoria. Open access operator Grand Central, owned by transport giant Arriva, is the other operator serving Bradford Interchange and provides it with links to and from London, currently operating 4 return services a day, meaning that getting here to do today's video from London was not as simple as it should be, which is where today's video sponsor comes in. Today's video is sponsored by Trip.com, a very versatile ticketing app that allows you to make incredible savings on train travel in the UK, Europe and Asia. As well as ultra cheap fares in general, the app offers innovative split ticketing options when actively searching for the best fares, which breaks your journey into several legs whilst at the same time saving you money. Now, as most of you know, I work a full-time job, and there are only a few direct trains a day from London to Bradford, so that meant I had to split my journey to travel when I wanted, paying just £43 for just a day's notice over the normal off-peak single with a simple change at Leeds, saving me over 60%. Now, you may also notice that there's a railcard discount applied too. Trip.com offers fantastic deals on UK railcards, and with their incredible Black Friday deal, you can download the Trip.com app and use the code OM on the homepage to access the Black Friday page during November 26th to November 29th. There will also be a limited release of 400 £1 railcards on November 29th for sale, and ultra low UK and Eurostar prices on this flash deal page. If you miss out on this deal, Trip.com is also offering an amazing 50% off of railcards to several of my lovely viewers using the code #Friday5, which allows you to save even more on your travel. Still not convinced? There's also an additional 5% off all train tickets for new users, and you can also get up to 10% off using the #Friday5 code for flights and hotels on top of the ultra low UK and Eurostar train prices. So give it a go! For today's journey, we'll be taking one of Grand Central's new Class 221 Super Voyager high-speed diesel multiple units. Grand Central operates 2 of the strong 44 fleet, built by Bombardier back in the early 2000s, and whilst it may seem like the stunning black and orange Grand Central livery has been applied to them, only promotional vinyls on the driving vehicles have been applied, with the previous Virgin Train silver remaining from before they were transferred. These trains used to be operated by Avanti West Coast and feature active tilting technology, a requirement for 125 mph operation on Britain's West Coast mainline, where they mainly serve partially electrified routes. Most of these trains have since been replaced by the brand new Class 805 and Class 807 Evero trains, which I reviewed on the channel on their inaugural service. Most of the 20 Avanti 221s have since been transferred to cross-country for use on north to south long-distance services, whilst Grand Central leased 2 in mid-2023 to support services whilst their unreliable Class 180s, the mainstay of their fleet, undergo repairs due to a high number of technical issues. You'll find Grand Central's Voyagers operating exclusively on the company's west riding route from London to Bradford, as opposed to their north-east route from London to Sunderland, which is Class 180 only for now. For today's journey down to London King's Cross, we'll be travelling in first class, which Grand Central highlights using gold-coloured doors as opposed to the standard silver, or dark grey too, as is the case for their Voyagers. Prior to going off lease, Avanti refurbished all 20 of its Voyagers except for first class, which was done by Virgin sometime before the franchise handover in 2019. First class is in a typical 2x1 layout and features mainly table seating with some airline seats too. I've been assigned the former, specifically seat 32, for the journey down to London this morning. The first part of today's journey sees us principally in West Yorkshire, with stops at some of the major towns and cities en route, as we work our way towards Doncaster and the main East Coast main line. From Doncaster, we run non-stop along the line to London King's Cross, with an expected arrival time of around 1:45, taking over 3 hours and 20 minutes to cover the 226 mile distance. Our departure from Bradford Interchange is on time at 10:23 AM UK time. Minutes later, we pull into the train's first stop of Low Moor, which serves both Low Moor and Oakenshaw to the south of Bradford. Despite the station's origins dating back to 1848, the current station was opened in 2017 following the original station closure in 1965. There's also a metal statue here, it seems, with little to no information available, so if you know more, please comment below. After departing Low Moor, the attendant comes and brings a complimentary bottle of water. Harrogate Spring, of course. You can also get more if you run out towards the front of the train, which is included in the first class ticket. Well, as the saying goes, it really is grim up north today, so let's check out the first class interior on Grand Central's Voyagers. The seat is no different from when these trains left Avanti. It has a nice ergonomic design, which is fully expected from a first class product, though I didn't expect to see a rip in the leather. The armrests on the aisle side are also foldable as seen here to allow more space, and speaking of which, the legroom was relatively okay and did the job, though not the most generous I've seen, so let's just be glad someone wasn't sitting opposite me. The seat's recline does provide an improvement however, just pull the lever and slide your body to adjust. One change Grand Central made to these sets is the inclusion of QR codes on the non-folding tables for the at-seat service in first class, but more on this a little later. A standard UK power socket is also present, with there also being a coat hanger just next to the seat's electronic seat reservation display, though as you can see Grand Central don't appear to be using this, instead relying on the good old display card put at the top of the seat. Just below the electronic displays are reading lights, but these do require a bit of a reach. Luggage can also be stored using the overhead racks just above these, with larger suitcases and items needing the bigger racks just next to the vestibules. Finally, a draw-down blind is available in case you want to reduce whatever sunlight there is outside or just have a rest. Those of you who are familiar with the Avanti Voyagers will see that very little has changed since the transfer, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. Excluding the rip in the seat, this is still a decent first class interior and it's good to see Grand Central retaining most of its features. We continue to cross through West Yorkshire and eventually make it to Halifax. No, not the bank. That being said, this town was the economic hub of the West Riding of Yorkshire in the 15th century, owing to its extensive wool manufacturing, and was a thriving mill town during the Industrial Revolution, with much of the town's industrial characteristics still being retained today, as we can see shortly after departure. Part of our route after Halifax sees us join the main Transpennine route between Leeds, Huddersfield and Manchester to call up Mirfield. The ongoing works here are part of the Transpennine route upgrade, a project to resolve capacity and infrastructure issues associated with the North Transpennine route, which includes doubling the tracks and full electrification of the line between Manchester and York, expected to be completed in 2032 should there be no further delays. After Brighouse, I started to get hungry, so I decided to get some food. As I mentioned earlier, access to the onboard catering is provided using the QR codes here, where you'll be brought to Grand Central's online portal. This is best accessed using the onboard Wi-Fi, which is free to use and has a good connection despite mobile data not being the best on the Voyagers. From here, you select your options using the menu, and for first class, you'll want to go to the dedicated section to select the ones included in the ticket price, which isn't much as you can see. If you're in standard class, orders can be picked up from the cafe car in Coach D. However, first class passengers skip the queues and have it delivered to their seats, which will be done later. For now, we're on the approach to Wakefield, where we'll briefly stop at Kirkgate Station. Just above is the 95 arc railway viaduct carrying the Leeds branch of the East Coast Main Line into Wakefield Westgate, the busier of the city's two stations despite opening after Wakefield Kirkgate in 1867. Kirkgate opened in 1840 and is in a more depressing state than the former despite a refurbishment in 2015. Grand Central's only first class lounge is located here, though this is currently closed due to the closure of Café V as stated on their website. After leaving Wakefield, the attendant delivered the snacks which I ordered earlier. This isn't much, but fortunately I wasn't massively hungry. Still, given how much first class tickets can cost if you don't book in advance, this is pretty disappointing, especially compared to the likes of LNER and other British intercity operators. Anyway, a quick look at standard class, which is in a 2x2 configuration. As was the case when these trains were with Avanti, Coach D mainly consists of table seating, so is ideal for those who are travelling in groups. The rest of the standard class consist mainly features airline style 2x2 seating, though there are a few tables as you can see. This does make the interior of the Voyagers generally cramped overall, and is one of the reasons they're generally hated by passengers, despite the refresh Avanti gave them bringing a pleasant change to their experience. Each vestibule also includes a map of the respective coach it's in, showing the emergency exits. The front of each driving vehicle is where space for bike storage is located, with each driving vehicle containing wheelchair spaces, with the one in first class shown here. Another reason the Voyagers have a cramped feel to them is that each 5-car train has an accessible toilet in each vestibule, reducing the available space for additional seating as opposed to putting more standard toilets in some carriages where there aren't dedicated wheelchair spaces. Again, not much has changed from the Avanti days, and this one is fortunately clean enough minus a few bits of loo paper on the floor. You'll also find a baby changing facility as well as 2 coat hooks by the door. Before Doncaster, our train calls at Pontefract Monk Hill, which is our last stop in West Yorkshire. The calling pattern for the West Riding route is rather weird here, with stops varying between the 4 daily returns Monday to Saturday, and no Grand Central services whatsoever on Sundays. After Pontefract, we prepare to join the East Coast Main Line for the final leg into London King's Cross, where we'll be running diesel under the wires for the remaining 2 hours of the trip. Grand Central have hinted though that they want to procure bi-mode units should their track access agreement be extended, which will replace the entire legacy diesel fleet, thus eliminating this. With the Doncaster Minster Church in the background, we pull into our first stop on the East Coast Main Line and our last scheduled stop before London. Doncaster was granted city status by King Charles III in November 2022, and the station here is one of 9 in the UK to have a Platform 0. As you can see, it's quite busy here. At Doncaster, Grand Central competes against legacy government-owned LNER, as well as fellow open access operator Hull Trains on routes to and from London. I will have a video on Hull Trains out soon, but for a look at LNER's classic Intercity 225 sets, click the link above now. Belmont Yard can be seen just to the right as we leave Doncaster, where you can see the unusual sight of West Midlands Class 730s in storage before entering service, though most of these have since entered service since this video was recorded. Have you tried them yet? On the East Coast Main Line, the Class 221's true potential can now be reached, as we now operate at a maximum speed of 125 miles per hour for the remainder of the journey down to London. I've never really had an issue with the ride quality of the Voyagers at this speed, minus the vibrations from the diesel engines. The overhead wires do spoil much of the scenery en route, but there are notable things to look out for, such as Newark Flat Crossing just outside of Newark Northgate, which is the UK's fastest flat crossing with a 100 mph top speed. After passing Grantham in the heart of the East Midlands, keep an eye out for the sign highlighting the section of the line where the A4 Mallard steam locomotive broke the world speed record for steam locomotives at 126 miles per hour, a feat achieved in 1938 which still stands to this day. At Warrington Junction just outside Peterborough, our train speed starts to decrease before coming to an unexpected stop at Peterborough station itself. Funnily enough, Grand Central recently started serving here Monday to Saturday, with one return service a day on both of its routes, but ours most definitely isn't one of them. The reason for the delay? A fault with one of Grand Central's Class 180s, which was causing congestion closer towards King's Cross. You really can't make this up. Soon enough, we're back on the move and ready to take in the remaining sights our journey on the East Coast Main Line has to offer. The view of Alexandra Palace in the background means today's journey is rapidly coming to a close. Overall, it was a very pleasant journey with Grand Central, and it's good to see them making great use of these redundant, recently refurbished Voyagers as a stopgap to try and resolve its recent reliability issues. This does beg to question though, what will happen when Grand Central terminates their lease? But I guess that's an issue for later. The first class single for this trip costs me £40.90, booked around 2 weeks in advance, including a third off with my railcard discount, which is pretty decent value for money for the extra space, though Grand Central could definitely look into improving its onboard food offerings as there is scope to make them better. Standard class cost around £16 with a railcard, though given how busy it was and usually is, I recommend going for first if you get the right fare and if you want better space and a quiet ambience. The Emirates Stadium in the background means we're only a mere few minutes away from our destination, and thanks to the delay earlier as well, we end up pulling into King's Cross 20 minutes late, meaning delay repay 15 applies and I ended up recovering 25% of the ticket cost. A nice result. Now you've heard from me, I want to hear from you. Have you travelled with Grand Central before? How do you think they compare to the other East Coast operators? Do you prefer the Voyagers or the 180s? Let me know in the comments. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and don't forget to like and share it if you did to aid the channel's growth, as well as subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications for more content such as this weekly. Okay, I'm off home now to get on with the rest of my day. Thanks so much for coming with me on this trip, and I look forward to bringing you with me on my next one.